Hey, everyone, what if time suddenly began to slow down? One day you're going about your daily activities like driving to work, and the next day that same drive takes 10 times longer than it should. You can't imagine how long it would take to cook food or walk down the street. The world would grind to a halt. You wouldn't be able to function. At least not without making some serious adjustments. But what if this slowdown was permanent? How would life actually change? Could humanity survive such an occurrence? Let's find out. One of the first things you notice is that you have more time to appreciate the little things in life. Take driving to work, for example. If you typically commute 20 miles to get to work in 30 minutes, then after time slowed, that same commute would take you 20 hours. It'd be so boring, but you'd have a lot of time to reflect on how nice the trees look or enjoy the sound of birds. This applies to everything in life. After time slows, you have more time to do anything you want. But let's be honest, this wouldn't last long. Humanity is impatient by nature. We'd quickly become frustrated by how long things took, especially considering we're used to instant gratification. Simply put, our brains aren't wired for waiting. Just think about how annoying it is when a simple website loads slowly. Even though we know it's not that big of a deal, we still get annoyed. But it gets worse. According to experts, the average person needs around 8 hours of sleep per night. However, many people often don't get enough rest because they have too much to do during their waking hours. Well, after time slows, these people will now need a bed for 8 days instead of 8 hours. They'd sleep for an entire week and then wake up feeling as tired as before. There'd simply be too much time to feel rested. But here's the thing, too much of anything is a bad thing, even if that thing is fun. For example, let's say you go out with your friends and have a blast. You go to your favorite restaurant, try new foods, play games, and tell hilarious jokes. But what if you had to repeat every moment of that outing over and over again for the rest of your life? Pretty soon it would become extremely tedious. Your jokes won't seem funny anymore. In fact, you may even start resenting your friends. So while you might enjoy having a lot of time to do the things you love, it would only last until you got bored. After all, humans aren't meant to live with an endless amount of free time. We have too many problems to solve and things to accomplish. Now, imagine you're driving down the highway at 60 miles per hour. Time seems normal and you're enjoying the ride. But then suddenly your car starts to decelerate. You step on the brakes and try to turn the steering wheel, but it's too late. Everything slows down around you. This is similar to how time would feel if it slowed down permanently. You'd probably panic. Fortunately, our bodies are equipped with reflexes to protect us from harm. When it feels like everything is slowing down around you, your natural reaction is to brace for impact. In other words, your body tenses up to prepare for whatever it thinks is coming. However, this doesn't always work. Imagine if the speed of light suddenly dropped from 186,000 miles per second to just 186 miles per second. You wouldn't be able to move fast enough to save yourself. Even if you did brace for impact, you wouldn't be able to escape what's coming. Why? Because everything else would be moving at its original speed. That includes cars, buses, bicycles, pets, and people. You might be able to react in time to avoid running into a bicycle or dodging a person. But what about a car or bus? You'd be screwed. Unfortunately, it's unlikely that your body would be able to keep up with the changes. In fact, you'd likely be wiped out. If time slowed, we'd need millions of years to adapt to such a huge change. But that doesn't mean we couldn't survive. After all, humans have made a lot of progress since our ancestors started walking on 2 legs. So let's imagine that humans were somehow able to adapt to a world where time slowed. If that happened, our planet would become incredibly dangerous. It'd be so risky to go anywhere that no one would go outside. For example, let's say you decide to walk down a street. You take a deep breath, tense all your muscles, and brace for impact. After all, who knows what could come hurtling towards you at high speed? Then, as you take your first step, your body moves forward extremely slowly, which makes sense given the new speed of time. But what about the molecules within your body? Those would still be moving at their original speeds. Now, it's hard to understand exactly what would happen, but it's safe to assume your body wouldn't function normally. Your heart, lungs, and brain would all stop working properly. It'd be like trying to operate a computer while the clock is ticking at 1,000 times slower speed. Eventually, your cells would begin to shut down. So unless you could somehow control the speed of time, you wouldn't last very long. But what if we were able to control the speed of time? If we could, then the world wouldn't be such a dangerous place. It'd actually be pretty amazing. For example, let's say there was a hurricane heading straight for your city. You could use your powers to slow time so the storm takes less time to pass. Or maybe a meteor is hurtling towards the Earth. No problem. You could just slow time until it passes. If you're worried about being hit by lightning, just slow time down and stand outside during a thunderstorm. Of course, controlling the speed of time isn't possible, or at least we don't know if it is, but what if it was? Do you think you'd use your powers to help people, or would you just make the world a better place for yourself? Maybe you'd make time go faster when you want to watch something exciting on TV and rewind time to fix mistakes. But here's something you might not think of. Slowing time could also cause all sorts of new problems. For example, when time slows, it becomes difficult to communicate. Think about how many words you speak in an hour. Now imagine trying to speak those same words, but each word takes a minute to say. Conversations would become so slow and drawn out that no one would want to talk to each other. Plus, you'd have to rewrite every book and article ever created. Just imagine how long it would take to read a book if each word lasted a minute. But perhaps the worst part about slowing time is that it would cause chaos. Galaxies, stars, and planets would no longer rotate on their axes. Their orbits would become distorted. Everything that revolves around our Earth, including the moon, would be thrown into complete disarray. The climate would become unpredictable. Storms would rage across the planet. People would die from exposure. Time is an essential element that affects everything. It's impossible to imagine how our world would function if it slowed down. And that's why, thankfully, it hasn't happened yet. In fact, according to scientists, time is already speeding up. From our perspective, it seems like time goes by quicker as we get older. Our perception of time is based on the frequency of significant events. So the fewer the events, the slower time seems to go. But here's the thing. There are actually scientific studies that back this up. As we age, we tend to remember fewer events, which makes time seem like it's passing by faster. Some researchers believe that time will continue to speed up as humans approach the heat death of the universe, which is estimated to occur in approximately 10 trillion years. So while we can speculate about what would happen if time slowed down, we can be certain that it will never happen in our lifetime. And honestly, that's probably for the best. Do you agree? Let us know your thoughts, and thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already.